I want to go back to a little bit about the with the artificial intelligence and really speaking about how far do you think, how far does this industry want to go? I mean, do you want to literally create a robot who can absolutely simulate a human being in feeling, emotion, intelligence, and creativity? I mean, can you do that? Can a robot? You're smiling.
Well, I'm smiling because depending on points of view, and you, as you mentioned earlier, we have very different points of view on things.
Yes.
Some of the feeling and emotion would be considered defects, so we may not want to reproduce those.
Why would
I'm
they
taking
be
a hard line
considered?
here. Well, you don't want the robot feeling tired or feeling ambitious or feeling bored.
Right.
Because then they'll probably want to go out and design another robot to do their job so they can retire like the people who built them.
So no feeling emotional robots whatsoever.
Well, it depends on the application. Maybe there are. If
But
you
would
want a
there ever
robot to
be-
write poetry, you might want that.
Would we want that? I mean, is it capable? I mean, are we capable of designing a robot who could, of course, write poetry, but have feeling and emotion? Can they actually experience and then write poetry based on that new experience?
They can, but it just means you mathematically break down what is experience, what is poetry, what is iambic pentameter, what is their vocabulary, and what is rhyming, and they'll spit out poetry all day long. Now, whether that's the same as a poet or not is completely arguable. And that's the whole point of AI, is almost any one specific thing a human can do. We can get a computer to do the same thing. The question is there anything magic about a wetware biology robot doing it, which is a human being?
Wetware?
Wetware instead of software.
I don't know what
Blood, corpuscles, chemicals in the body.
you call that. Wetware?
That's wetware.
Okay.
You're a wetware robot. And, so you got the wetware robot and the hardware robot. And the question is, if both of you went out and experienced walking in the park with a bunch of daisies and then came back and sat down and wrote a poem with words from the dictionary that you know that happen to rhyme nicely in the right places, who's to say one of you has feelings and one doesn't, or one of you has put their soul and essence into the poetry and the other one hasn't? They both produced poetry, they both went to the park, they both did the same thing. So it all depends on the viewpoint.
Right. Wow. I mean, that's fascinating when you really start to think about it. And because you really can break it down without the human emotion attached, which is what you would prefer, really, without having any human emotion attached. I mean,
very little advantage to the human emotion.
Why do you say that?
Well, again, it depends. Most applications of computing, from those that can afford to fund it, are military, government, or industrial. Three places there where emotion's not ranked very highly.
Right.
The areas where emotion kicks in, whether it's love or sports or playing golf or relating or dating or with other people, you don't need robots for that. That's what people want robots to do the work so they can go and enjoy the emotions. So,
do you think human beings really want to enjoy the emotions, or do you think it's the chemical hit that they get from experiencing the emotion? Do you think we become...
Depends on the human being.
Well, I think we become
That might be the wrong person to ask.
Right, I know. Because this is where you and I have our differing points of view. I believe we become chemically addicted to our emotions. And so our bodies begin to crave more of the chemical hit of what the emotional feeling is. And so if somebody's stuck in a pattern of feeling depressed or feeling angry or feeling whatever, it's really their body begins thinking for them, and the body begins to crave more of that chemical hit. So it gets the person to it keeps the person more depressed or angry or whatever it may be. And with a robot, I'm wondering if you could teach a robot to become, quote unquote, chemically addicted to itself, where it would continue to.
Of course. The nice thing about the robotic structure is you can define everything. You can define what's good and bad, what's pain and what's reward.
Can you teach the robot, though, to think for itself about what's good and bad, or not, or would you have to actually compute that in? Will a robot be able to just learn from itself and continue on without a human being updating its software?
Yes. No, you can absolutely program it, but how it learns or how to control that evolutionary computing,
right,
where either it changes or it has the ability to reproduce itself as does software today. There's software programs that once they learn a certain amount can produce another program that's smarter than itself and thus kill itself off. And then that computer program evolve differently, except they can evolve in minutes versus decades or generations with human beings, and they never forget. So you'd have a great-great-great-great-grandson that knows everything all of its ancestors knows and more.